"That's the man who fixed our car, Mommy." The little girl pointed at the CEO who'd helped them. "Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The wind that evening cut through the highway like a cold blade. The rain had turned the asphalt slick and silver, and the last light of dusk was fading behind the trees. Mia Harper gripped the steering wheel of her old blue sedan, knuckles white, her daughter Lily curled in the back seat under a thin blanket. They had been driving home from her second job at the motel when the engine coughed once, twice, and died. The headlights dimmed. The car rolled to a stop on the shoulder of a quiet country road. "Please, not tonight," Mia whispered. She tried the ignition again. Nothing. Only the hollow click of defeat. She looked at the clock on the dashboard. It was 9:30 p.m. The rain grew harder, hammering the windshield. Steam drifted from the hood. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone. No signal. Out here, miles from town, it was just rain, darkness, and the distant hum of passing trucks. From the back seat came a small voice. "Mommy? Are we going to be okay?" Mia forced a smile. "Of course, sweetheart. We just need a little help, that's all." She wrapped her thin coat tighter and stepped out into the downpour. Cold water ran into her shoes as she lifted the hood. The smell of burnt oil hit her nose. She had no idea what she was looking at: wires, smoke, and a soft hiss of dying heat. Headlights appeared behind them, cutting through the storm. A pickup truck slowed and stopped. For a brief second, fear flashed in her chest. Then a tall figure stepped out, his face shadowed beneath a soaked hooded jacket. "You need help, ma'am?" His voice was deep but calm. Mia hesitated. "The car, it just stopped. I tried everything." The man nodded once and walked closer, rain dripping from his hair. "Pop the hood. Let's take a look." His hands moved with quiet confidence, checking wires, tapping the battery. "You got lucky. Just a loose connection." In the glow of his flashlight, she could see his eyes steady, kind, but tired. He worked fast, tightening a bolt with a small wrench from his pocket. Within minutes, the engine coughed back to life. The sound filled the night like a heartbeat returning. Mia exhaled a shaky laugh. "I do not know how to thank you." He shook his head. "No need. I have been stuck on the side of the road before. It is no fun." From the car window, Lily peered out, wide-eyed. "Mommy, who is that?" "This man just helped us, honey," Mia said, smiling with relief. The stranger crouched to Lily's eye level, offering a clean handkerchief. "Here, for your tears. Every brave girl needs one." The cloth was white, embroidered with the initials EC in small blue thread. Lily took it carefully. "Thank you, mister." He stood and stepped back, rain glistening on his jacket. "You both drive safe now." "Wait, can I pay you something, please?" He only smiled. "No charge. Just promise to help someone else when you can." The truck's engine rumbled to life. As it pulled away, the red taillights faded into the storm. Mia stood there a long moment, water soaking through her hair, the sound of the rain mixing with the hum of her revived engine. Inside the car, Lily clutched the handkerchief to her chest. "Mommy, I think he was an angel." Mia laughed softly, though her eyes glistened. "Maybe he was, sweetheart. Maybe he was." "Oh." She started the car again and drove slowly toward the distant lights of town. Behind them, the highway stretched empty. But somewhere beyond the rain, the man who had helped them watched from his truck mirror, a thoughtful smile forming as if something in that brief encounter had already begun to change his life too. The next morning arrived gray and heavy, the kind of cold that seeps through every layer of clothing. The rain from the night before had frozen into thin silver sheets on the sidewalks. Mia Harper woke before dawn in their small apartment above a laundromat on Maple Road. The hum of the washing machines below was constant, like a tired heartbeat beneath their floor. She moved quietly so she would not wake Lily, who was curled under a blanket printed with faded stars. The handkerchief with the blue initials, EC, lay folded on the nightstand beside her small hand. For a moment, Mia smiled. Then reality pressed back in. The electric bill sat on the counter, unopened. The rent notice hung on the refrigerator door. She slipped into her uniform, a pale yellow polo from the diner where she worked the morning shift. Her reflection in the mirror looked older than 30 years. There were new shadows under her eyes, the kind that come from years of sleepless nights and double shifts. She tied her hair, whispered to herself, one day at a time, and stepped into the cold. By 6 a.m., the diner was already half full. The air smelled of burnt coffee and fried bacon. Regulars filled their usual booths, construction workers in thick jackets, nurses ending night shifts, a few office clerks scrolling on their phones. Mia moved between tables with practiced ease, carrying trays, refilling mugs, offering tired smiles. "Morning, Mia," called Ruth the cook, a woman in her 60s with arms strong from decades at the grill. "You look like you slept in the freezer." Feels like it," Mia said, setting down a plate of pancakes. "But we made it home fine last night. Car's alive again." Ruth glanced over her shoulder. "Alive again, huh? You get help?" Mia hesitated, remembering the man in the rain, his calm voice, the embroidered letters. "Yeah," she said softly. "A stranger stopped, fixed the car for free." Ruth grunted. "Well, not all angels have wings. Some drive pickup trucks." "Oh," Mia smiled, but her eyes drifted to the window, where the morning light spilled across the wet pavement. For a heartbeat, she wondered where he was now, the man who had helped them. Hours passed in the blur of clinking dishes and ringing orders. Around noon, she checked her phone. No missed calls, no messages. The world kept moving forward as if that night had never happened. She picked up her paycheck, folded it into her wallet, and walked home. Lily was waiting by the window, coloring on a sheet of paper. "Mommy, look," she said proudly. On the page was a drawing of their blue car and a man standing beside it, tall and smiling, with big letters above, "Thank you, Mr. E.C." Mia knelt beside her, touched the paper gently. "That is beautiful, honey. He would love that. Do you think we will see him again?" Mia shook her head with a soft laugh. "The world is big, sweetheart. Maybe not." But something inside her, a quiet, stubborn part, hoped otherwise. The evening came quickly. After dinner, Mia began her second shift, cleaning rooms at the motel on Riverside Avenue. She moved from room to room, changing sheets, wiping mirrors, scrubbing bathrooms. Her hands ached, but she kept working. Every hour meant another small step toward rent, another meal, another week safe. At 10 o'clock, she took her break outside near the vending machine. The air was colder now, sharp against her lungs. A delivery van rolled by, its headlights sweeping over her face. She thought of the pickup truck from the night before, and wondered if he ever thought of them too. When she finally came home past midnight, Lily was asleep, the handkerchief still clutched in her hand. Mia brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead and sat beside her on the bed. "Thank you, whoever you are," she whispered into the dark. "You gave us one more safe night." Outside, the city was quiet, lights blinking red and gold in the distance. Life was still hard, unpaid bills, long hours, endless fatigue, but something had shifted. Somewhere deep inside, under the weariness and fear, a small spark of hope had begun to glow again, faint but steady. And though she did not know it yet, that spark would soon lead her back to the man with the blue initials, the man whose kindness was about to change everything. A week later, the first hints of spring touched the air. The snow that had lingered along the sidewalks melted into clear puddles, and sunlight spilled across the windows of the diner where Mia Harper worked. Her life had settled into its usual rhythm: early mornings, long shifts, late nights, but the small handkerchief with the blue initials never left her bag. Every evening, Lily would take it out, fold it carefully, and place it by her bed before sleeping. To her, it was a lucky charm, proof that good people still existed. To Mia, it was a mystery she could not quite forget. On Sunday afternoon, the two of them walked to the small park near their apartment. Lily carried her sketchbook, while Mia sat on the bench with a steaming cup of coffee she could barely afford. The city buzzed quietly around them. Families laughed, dogs barked, children chased each other across the grass. It should have felt normal, but something inside Mia kept drifting back to that rainy night, the man's calm voice, the steady way he worked beneath the storm. "Mama," Lily said suddenly, pointing to the sky, "do you think Mr. E.C. is looking at the same clouds we are?" Mia smiled faintly. "Maybe he is. Maybe he is fixing another car somewhere. Lily grinned. Then he must be a superhero. Or maybe just a kind man who knows how to help, Mia said, tucking a strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. When they returned home, there was a flyer stuck in the apartment mailbox. The bright logo read, Carter Motors Foundation, Back to School Community Fair. Saturday, April 20th. It promised free car checkups, food stalls, and children's activities. Mia almost tossed it away, but Lily's eyes lit up. Mommy, can we go, please? There will be music and balloons. Mia hesitated. Weekends were her only time to rest, but Lily rarely asked for anything that was not essential. She nodded. All right, sweetheart. We will go. The days that followed were long. Mia picked up extra shifts at the motel to cover overdue rent. At night, she rubbed her sore hands and whispered the same quiet promise. We will be fine. Saturday arrived bright and warm. The Carter Motors Fair took place downtown, a few blocks from the riverfront. The lot was filled with shining cars, colorful tents, and the hum of cheerful music. Mia wore her cleanest blouse, and Lily wore her favorite yellow dress with white ribbons. Crowds gathered near the main stage, where a large banner read Community Begins with Kindness. Volunteers handed out food, and children painted small wooden cars. Mia watched Lily join a group of kids drawing chalk hearts on the pavement. For the first time in months, she saw her daughter laugh freely. Then a man's voice echoed through the speakers, steady, confident, familiar. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ethan Carter, and on behalf of Carter Motors, I want to thank you for being here. Mia froze. The microphone carried his voice across the lot, smooth and unmistakable. She turned toward the stage. There he was, the man from the storm, now dressed in a dark suit, standing beneath the sunlight. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. Mommy! Lily tugged her sleeve, pointing eagerly. That's him. That's the man who fixed our car. Heads turned. A few people nearby followed Lily's pointing hand toward Mia. Ethan's eyes, scanning the crowd, stopped when he saw them. For a second, his expression faltered, surprise breaking through his composed face. Then he smiled, small but real. Mia's breath caught. Her first instinct was to step back, to disappear into the sea of strangers. But Lily, still waving, called again. Mr. E.C., we found you. Oh, the audience chuckled softly, unaware of the history behind the little girl's excitement. Ethan raised a hand in acknowledgement, his gaze lingering on Mia. It seems someone remembers me, he said into the microphone, warmth in his tone. Mia's heart pounded. She wanted to explain, to hide, to thank him all at once. But she stayed still, frozen between embarrassment and awe. Around her, people clapped as Ethan continued his speech about community, compassion, and second chances. When the event ended, she tried to leave quietly, guiding Lily toward the exit. But before they reached the gate, a voice called behind them. Miss Harper? She turned. Ethan stood there, no microphone, no crowd, just a calm smile. I thought that was you. Mia felt her face flush. I did not know who you were that night. He laughed softly. That was the point. Sometimes it is good to be just a person, not a name. Lily held up the handkerchief, bright against the sunlight. We kept it safe. Ethan's smile deepened. I see that. Looks like it brought you luck. Mia looked at him, words caught in her throat. You changed our night that evening. Thank you. He shook his head gently. You do not owe me anything. But maybe you can let me return the favor properly. And before she could answer, he handed her a business card embossed with the same initials, EC. That was the moment Mia realized the world had just shifted again, and this time, it might change everything. The card in Mia Harper's hand felt heavier than paper. The gold letters shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Ethan Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Carter Motors. She stared at it for a long second, her mind struggling to connect the two versions of the same man. The one who had knelt in the rain to fix her car, and the one now standing in front of her in a tailored suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. I do not understand, she said quietly. Why would someone like you be out there that night, helping strangers on the side of the road? Ethan smiled, but there was something modest in his eyes. I like to test our cars myself. Sometimes I drive alone, late at night. That evening I saw you and your daughter stranded. I remembered my own mother, years ago, stuck with a broken car and no one to help. I could not just drive by. Mia lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening around the card. You could have told me who you were. If I had, he said gently, would you have let me help? She did not answer. Lily was twirling nearby, humming a tune from the fair, oblivious to the strange tension between the adults. Ethan glanced at the child, then back at Mia. I am not here to make you uncomfortable, but I have been thinking about that night. We have a new customer service training program at Carter Motors Community Outreach, empathy workshops, that sort of thing. You are exactly the kind of person we need. Would you consider joining us? Mia blinked. Me? I have never worked in an office before. You have worked harder than most people I know, Ethan said simply. And you understand people. That matters more than a title. It sounded impossible. A position at a major company, offered by the man she had mistaken for a mechanic. She wanted to refuse, to retreat into the safety of the familiar. But then she thought of the overdue bills, the long nights, Lily's hopeful eyes. What would I have to do? She asked. Come by headquarters on Monday morning, Ethan replied. Meet the team, see if it feels right. If not, you walk away, no pressure. He gave her a polite nod and walked off toward a group of reporters waiting by the stage. Mia stood frozen, the card still in her hand, until Lily tugged her sleeve. Mommy, are we rich now? Mia laughed softly. Not quite, sweetheart, but maybe things are about to get better. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Mia sat at the kitchen table with her laptop. The screen glowed weakly against the dim apartment. She typed Carter Motors into the search bar. Page after page appeared headlines about innovation, philanthropy, billion-dollar expansions. Photos of Ethan at charity events, shaking hands with mayors, smiling beside gleaming cars. She whispered to herself, You really had no reason to stop for me. When Monday came, she woke before dawn. Her nerves hummed as she dressed in her best outfit, a simple white blouse and dark skirt. She kissed Lily goodbye and promised to pick her up early. The bus ride downtown felt endless, the tall buildings rising like glass mountains around her. The headquarters of Carter Motors stood on Fifth Avenue, all steel and glass reflecting the sky. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and new leather. Receptionists greeted her with warm smiles. Miss Harper, Mr. Carter is expecting you. Ethan met her in the lobby, not as the CEO, but as the same calm man from the roadside. You made it, he said. Let me show you around. They walked through wide corridors where teams worked on marketing campaigns and community projects. He introduced her to several managers, explaining how the new outreach department aimed to connect with customers beyond the sale, listening, helping, creating trust. By the time they reached his office, Mia's nervousness had softened into curiosity. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the framed photographs on his desk, cars, cities, and a faded picture of a woman with kind eyes. My mother, Ethan said, noticing her gaze. She raised me alone. She taught me that success only means something if it helps others. Mia smiled faintly. She sounds like someone I would have liked to meet. He nodded. She would have liked you too. Silence lingered between them, not awkward but warm. Then Ethan handed her a folder. This is your onboarding package. Take a few days to read it. If you decide to join, the position is yours. Mia held the folder close. Why me, Ethan? There must be hundreds of qualified people. Because when I saw you that night, he said, his voice quiet but steady, you reminded me what courage looks like. You did not cry. You did not give up. You just kept your child safe. That kind of strength is rare. For the first time in a long while, Mia felt something new rising in her chest possibility. She left the building with the city's sunlight catching her hair, and the future unfolding. Uncertain, but bright. Back at home, Lily ran to her at the door. How was it, Mommy? Mia knelt down, smiling. It was something good. I think it is the start of something good. And high above the city, Ethan watched from his office window as they disappeared into the crowd. Unaware that this small decision would soon intertwine their lives in ways neither of them could yet imagine. 2 weeks later, Mia Harper walked through the glass doors of Carter Motors as an official employee. Her first day began with the soft hum of computers and the quiet buzz of conversation. The office smelled of coffee and ambition, and for the first time in years, she felt that her life might finally be turning a corner. Ethan Carter had personally shown her around during orientation. He kept his tone professional, but there was warmth in his eyes when he spoke to her, as if he remembered that rainy night as clearly as she did. "You will be working in community relations," he explained. "You will help organize outreach events, customer care training, charity programs. It is about connecting people, not just selling cars." Mia nodded. "I can do that." Over the following weeks, she learned quickly. She spent mornings answering calls from customers, afternoons planning donation drives, and evenings reviewing feedback reports. Her coworkers admired her patience and empathy. They said her calm voice could turn an angry customer into a loyal one. Every day at noon, she saw Ethan pass through the open floor with his coffee in hand, greeting employees by name. Sometimes he would stop by her desk to ask how the new project was going. Their conversations were brief, but each one carried a spark, small, genuine, unspoken. Lily also thrived. Ethan's foundation had awarded her a scholarship for a local art program, and the little girl began filling their apartment walls with drawings of cars, stars, and smiling people. She told her mother, "When I grow up, I want to make cars that never break down, so no one gets stuck in the rain again." One Friday evening, Mia stayed late to finish a presentation for a community fundraiser. The office was nearly empty when Ethan appeared at her desk, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. "Still here?" he asked. She smiled. "Almost done. I want this project to be perfect." "You always say that," he teased lightly. "You know, perfection is not the goal. Authenticity is." "Oh?" Mia tilted her head. "Is that a Carter Motors slogan?" He laughed softly. "No, just something my mother used to tell me." For a moment, the air between them shifted quiet, meaningful. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the glass walls. Then Ethan cleared his throat. "There is a company dinner next week. You should come. It is good networking." Mia hesitated. "I'm not sure I belong at those kinds of events." "You belong more than most," he said simply. "Just be yourself." "Oh." The following week, she arrived at the dinner in a modest navy dress borrowed from a coworker. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and polished marble floors. As she entered, a few executives glanced her way, curious but polite. Ethan crossed the room to greet her, his expression proud. "You made it," he said. "I almost turned around," she admitted, smiling nervously. "I'm glad you did not." They shared a quiet moment amid the music and chatter. To anyone watching, they might have looked like two colleagues exchanging small talk. But to Mia, it felt like the beginning of something fragile and real. Later that night, as she walked home beneath the cool glow of streetlights, she touched the small pendant Ethan had given her earlier, a thank-you gift, shaped like a tiny car wheel. It was simple, elegant, and engraved with 3 words: "Keep moving forward." She smiled to herself. For the first time in a long while, Mia felt seen, valued, and alive. And though she did not yet realize it, that sense of peace would soon be tested in ways that would change everything again. The following Monday began like any other. The office at Carter Motors buzzed with quiet energy. Phones rang, printers hummed, and the faint smell of coffee drifted through the halls. Mia Harper sat at her desk, focused on a report for the upcoming Drive for Hope charity event. She had just finished adjusting the layout when her coworker Jenna leaned over with a grin. "Your presentation from last week was incredible, Mia. Mr. Carter mentioned it in the executive meeting." Mia blinked in surprise. "He did?" Jenna nodded. "Word around here is that you are his favorite new hire." Mia laughed softly, though her cheeks warmed. "I doubt that. He just believes in people." But as the day went on, the whispers grew louder. By lunchtime, she could feel curious eyes following her through the break room. When she returned to her desk, she noticed 2 coworkers huddled by the copier, speaking in low tones. "I heard she came from the motel cleaning staff," one said. "And now she is having lunch with the CEO? Must be nice." Mia's chest tightened. She looked down at her hands and pretended not to hear. That afternoon, Ethan stopped by her desk. "Great job on the charity files," he said warmly. "Can we meet later to discuss next week's campaign?" "Of course," Mia answered quickly, though she could feel the weight of the room shift. After he walked away, the silence that followed was sharp and heavy. By the next morning, the rumor had spread beyond her department. An online blog for automotive news posted a short piece titled, "CEO's Mystery Assistant, Office Romance or Rapid Promotion." It featured a blurry photo of Ethan and Mia from the company dinner, standing too close under the chandelier's light. When Mia saw it, her heart dropped. Her phone buzzed with messages from coworkers, half curious, half cruel. She wanted to explain, to tell them it was not true, but words felt useless against gossip. At noon, she went to Ethan's office, holding her phone in trembling hands. "Someone posted this," she said quietly. "I do not know how to make it stop." Ethan's expression hardened as he read the article. "This is nonsense. I will have our legal team handle it. They are saying I am here because of you," Mia whispered. "That I do not deserve this job." He stood up, his voice firm. "You earned your place, Mia. Do not let them take that from you." But the next day, things got worse. A board member confronted Ethan in the hallway, warning that his personal involvement might damage the company's reputation. When Mia entered the office later, she could sense the tension in every look, every whisper. By evening, she could no longer bear it. She printed her resignation letter, placed it on Ethan's desk, and walked toward the door. He followed her, his tone urgent. "Please, do not let them win. We can fight this." Mia turned back, eyes shining with tears. "You do not understand. I have spent my whole life being looked down on. I cannot go through that again. Thank you for everything, Ethan, but I have to leave." He reached for her arm, then stopped himself. His voice broke softly. "Mia, please." But she only shook her head and walked away. The sound of her footsteps echoed down the marble hallway like a closing door. That night, she sat by the window of her small apartment, Lily asleep beside her. The city lights blurred through her tears. She held the tiny pendant Ethan had given her and whispered, "Keep moving forward." But for the first time since she met him, she did not know how. Days turned into weeks, but the silence between Ethan Carter and Mia Harper felt heavier than any distance. She had left Carter Motors quietly, returning to shifts at the diner. Each morning she poured coffee, smiled at strangers, and pretended the ache in her chest was only exhaustion. Lily still asked about him, sometimes innocent, hopeful questions that Mia could not bear to answer. One rainy evening, Ethan sat in his office long after the others had gone home. The city below shimmered through the glass windows, a blur of headlights and rain. On his desk lay the resignation letter she had written creased, soft at the edges from how many times he had unfolded it. A knock sounded on the door. It was Michael Stone, the company's head of communications, and one of the board members who had warned him weeks earlier. "You should see this," Michael said, setting down a folder. "We traced the source of that article." Ethan flipped it open. Inside were email copies, payments, and photographs. The rumors had not been a random tabloid scoop. They had been planted by someone inside the company, Vice President of Marketing, Richard Hale, a man long jealous of Ethan's reforms and popularity. He had arranged for the gossip to undermine Ethan's credibility and force a leadership vote. Ethan's jaw tightened. "He dragged her name through the mud just to get to me." Michael nodded grimly. "If we move fast, we can expose him. But you need to decide how public you want this to be." Ethan stared out at the rain, his reflection cold in the glass. "Completely public," he said. "If I stay silent, I become part of the lie." The next morning, Carter Motors held a press conference. Reporters packed the room, cameras flashing. Ethan stood at the podium, shoulders straight, voice clear. "There have been rumors about me and a former employee," he began. "Those rumors were false, spread deliberately by an executive now under investigation. But I take responsibility for the pain they caused. The woman in question is one of the most capable, hard-working people I have ever met. She reminded me why this company exists: to serve, to help, to lead with honesty." "Oh." He paused, letting the words sink in. "If kindness is considered weakness, then I am proud to be weak." Across town, at the diner, the television above the counter played the live broadcast. Mia froze with a coffee pot in her hand as Ethan's voice filled the room. Customers turned to watch. When he finished speaking, the room erupted in applause through the screen. Mia's throat tightened. For the first time since she had left, she felt seen again, not as a rumor, not as a scandal, but as herself. That night, A single email arrived in her inbox. The subject line read, "The truth is out. The door is still open." She stared at the message for a long time, the cursor blinking over the reply box. Then, slowly, she began to type. Mia Harper sat on the edge of her bed long after Lily had fallen asleep. The soft light from the street lamp poured through the thin curtains, painting golden lines across the floor. Her laptop screen still glowed with the message from Ethan Carter. "The truth is out. The door is still open." She had read it a dozen times. Her heart wanted to answer, but her mind whispered all the old fears. What if it happened again? What if she was not strong enough to face that world? She closed the laptop and pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to quiet the storm inside her. The next morning, she walked Lily to school. The air smelled of wet pavement and lilacs, and for the first time in weeks, Mia felt something lighter than sadness. As she kissed her daughter goodbye, Lily looked up and said, "Mommy, are you happy again?" Mia smiled faintly. "I'm getting there, sweetheart." On her way to the diner, she passed a storefront television showing a replay of Ethan's press conference. The subtitle read, "Carter Motors CEO speaks out for integrity and kindness." People on the sidewalk had stopped to watch. One woman murmured, "It is rare to see someone admit their mistakes like that." Something inside Mia shifted. She thought about how he had stood there, facing the world alone, defending her when he could have stayed silent. She remembered his voice that night in the rain, calm and steady. "Promise to help someone else when you can." By the time she reached the diner, she had made her decision. That afternoon, she left work early and took the bus downtown. The Carter Motors Tower gleamed under the afternoon sun, tall and silver like the day she had first entered it months ago. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped through the revolving doors. The receptionist looked up in surprise. "Miss Harper, Mr. Carter is in a meeting, but—" Mia shook her head. "I will wait." She sat in the lobby, heart pounding. The same photographs of community projects lined the walls, smiling families, children with toy cars, workers shaking hands. For the first time, she realized she had been part of something bigger than herself. When the elevator doors opened, Ethan stepped out, his expression unreadable at first, then softening into quiet relief. "You came back." Mia nodded. "I saw what you did. You did not have to defend me, but you did." "I told the truth," he said simply. "You deserved that." She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "If you will still have me, I would like to come back. Not because I need the job, but because I believe in what you are trying to do." "Oh," Ethan smiled, a calm warmth spreading across his face. "Then welcome home, Mia." For the first time in a long while, she let herself breathe freely. The past no longer felt like a chain, but a bridge, leading her towards something whole, honest, and new. 1 year later, the spring sun rose over the city with a soft, golden light. A new sign gleamed on the front of an old warehouse near the river. Lily's Garage Foundation. The letters were painted by hand, bright blue against the white brick. Inside, rows of refurbished cars stood beside work tables covered with tools and paint cans. Volunteers moved between them, women, veterans, and single parents, learning how to fix engines, change tires, and rebuild their confidence, one step at a time. At the center of it all, Mia Harper walked through the workshop wearing a denim apron, her hair tied back, her smile calm and certain. It had taken months of planning and countless sleepless nights, but with the support of Carter Motors, the foundation was real. What began as a promise on a rainy night had become a place where kindness turned into action. Lily, now 8 years old, painted a banner near the door that read, "Kindness drives us forward." She turned to her mother proudly. "Do you think Mr. Ethan will like it?" Mia laughed. "I think he will love it." A few minutes later, the sound of an engine rolled into the garage. A sleek silver sedan stopped by the entrance, and Ethan Carter stepped out, dressed simply in a white shirt and rolled sleeves. He looked around, taking in the sight of the busy workshop, the laughter, the sunlight. His eyes softened when they met Mia's. "This is even better than I imagined," he said. "You helped make it happen," Mia replied. "We both did." He handed her a small frame wrapped in brown paper. "A gift for the wall." She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was the white handkerchief, carefully preserved and mounted behind glass, the blue initials still bright, E.C. Beneath it was a small plaque engraved with the words, "Kindness is never lost." Mia's throat tightened. You kept it all this time. I told you it brought me luck, Ethan said softly. Around them, people began to gather for the foundation's opening ceremony. Cameras flashed, children waved handmade signs, and Lily climbed onto a stool to hand her mother a microphone. Mia looked at the crowd, her voice steady, but full of emotion. A year ago, I was stranded on the side of a dark road with nothing but hope and a broken car. A stranger stopped to help, and that moment changed everything. Today, we are here to prove that kindness can rebuild more than engines, it can rebuild lives. Applause filled the room. Ethan stepped beside her, his hand finding hers naturally. Later, as the sun set over the river, the three of them stood outside the building. Lily reached up and placed the framed handkerchief in Mia's hands. "Mommy, it belongs to both of you now." Mia smiled through tears. "You are right, sweetheart. It does." Ethan wrapped an arm around them both, the light fading into gold behind them. The story that began with a broken car and a storm now ended with laughter, warmth, and a promise that no act of kindness, no matter how small, ever truly disappears.